The giant space station floated in the darkness between stars. Commander Thek stared at the glowing screens showing energy readings from a distant blue planet. The readings made him smile in a way that showed sharp teeth. This would be easy, he thought, for 300 years the Valan Empire had ruled the galaxy. They were bigger, stronger, and smarter than every other species they met. Their ships could destroy entire planets. Their weapons could melt mountains. Their armor could stop any attack. No one had ever beaten them in battle. The blue planet was called Earth by its people. These humans were weak, small creatures who still used primitive rockets to barely reach their own moon. They fought each other constantly over resources and land. They had no unified government, no planetary shields, and no real weapons that could threaten a Valan warship. Thek studied the intelligence reports. Human technology was thousands of years behind Valan science. They still burned fossil fuels for energy. They still used metal projectiles as weapons. They still died from diseases that Valan medicine had cured centuries ago. These creatures would surrender within hours of seeing a single Valan ship. The plan was simple and had worked on 17 other worlds. Send one ship to demonstrate Valan power, demand immediate surrender. If they refused, destroy a few cities until they begged for mercy, then put the survivors to work, mining resources for the Empire. It never took more than a few days, but Thex did not understand something important about humans. Every other species the Valan had conquered were prey animals who ran when faced with predators. Humans were different. Humans were persistence hunters. They were the creatures who had chased mammoths across frozen continents, who had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that lasted decades. When humans locked onto prey, they never gave up. They would track wounded animals for days through snow and rain and burning deserts. They would exhaust creatures 10 times their size by simply refusing to stop chasing them. They had climbed to the top of their food chain, not through strength or speed, but through stubbornness. Thex gave the order for first contact. A single observation ship would approach Earth, demonstrate Valan superiority, and accept their surrender. The ship was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level continents. Its captain, war leader Vex, had conquered 4 worlds without losing a single battle as the ship jumped through space toward the small blue planet. Vex was already planning the victory celebration. He would be promoted for adding another world to the Empire. The humans would become workers in the mines and factories. Their planet would provide resources for further expansion. What Thex did not know was that humans had been preparing for this moment their entire evolutionary history. Every human child grew up hearing stories about monsters and invaders. Every human culture had legends about ordinary people facing impossible odds and winning through courage and cleverness. The Valan ship appeared at the edge of the solar system like a dark moon suddenly blocking out stars. On Earth, every radio telescope, every satellite, every observatory turned toward the massive vessel. Human scientists worked frantically to understand what they were seeing. The ship was clearly artificial, clearly alien, and clearly hostile. It moved through space with purpose, heading directly toward Earth. Its size was terrifying. Its weapons were beyond human understanding. Its technology was impossibly advanced compared to anything humans had built. But instead of panic, something else happened in the governments and military bases of Earth, something that the Valan had never encountered in 300 years of conquest. Humans looked at the impossible threat approaching their world, and their first thought was not how to surrender. It was how to fight. President Daeho Park called emergency meetings with world leaders. Military commanders began calculating how their weapons might damage the alien ship. Scientists started analyzing the ship with every instrument they had. Engineers began designing new weapons using principles they barely understood. Dr. Min-Ho Lee noticed something in the energy readings from the alien ship. The propulsion system showed harmonic frequencies that suggested specific vulnerabilities. Engineer Young Soo Choi started coordinating with weapons manufacturers worldwide. If Earth was going to face annihilation, they would learn everything they could about their enemy first. The Valan ship reached Earth orbit and broadcast a message in perfect human languages, somehow translated flawlessly. The message was simple: surrender immediately or face complete destruction. As a demonstration of their power, they casually vaporized an abandoned space station with a single energy beam. The destruction was total, absolute. The station simply ceased to exist, turned to atoms in a flash of light that could be seen from Earth. The message was clear: resist and every city on the planet would share the same fate. But the demonstration had an unexpected effect. Instead of terrorizing humans into submission, it gave them crucial information about alien weapon capabilities. Dr. Hyun-Soo Bae analyzed the energy beam and found it operated on predictable frequency patterns. Captain Soo-Jin Kim calculated the power requirements and realized the weapons had limitations. Around the world, humans did what they had always done when facing extinction. They adapted. They learned. They prepared to fight back. Even knowing they would probably die, they began planning how to hurt their enemies. The Valon had given Earth 72 hours to surrender. They had no idea they had just given humanity time to turn their entire planet into a weapon. The alien ship hung in Earth orbit like a metal moon. Its dark hull reflected no light, and its weapons tracked the movement of every satellite. Captain Soo-Jin Kim watched the massive vessel from the deep space monitoring station. Her hands shook as she recorded energy readings that made no sense according to human physics. The ship was 3 kilometers of impossible technology. Weapons that could melt steel from orbit, shields that made light bend around them, engines that seemed to violate the laws of thermodynamics. Everything about the vessel screamed superiority over human engineering. President Dae-ho Park stood before a room filled with world leaders, generals, scientists, and engineers. The emergency session had been called within hours of the first alien transmission. Every major government had representatives present. All national conflicts had been suspended. Everyone understood that humanity faced extinction. The alien message played again in dozens of languages. The translation was perfect, showing technology far beyond human capability. The demand was simple. Earth had 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. All humans would become workers for the Valon Empire. Resistance would result in planetary annihilation. War. Leader Vex had delivered the ultimatum with casual indifference. He had done this 17 times before. The pattern was always the same. Show overwhelming force, demand, submission, accept, surrender. The humans were no different from any other primitive species. To demonstrate their power, the Valon ship targeted an abandoned space station orbiting Mars. The structure had been humanity's most advanced construction project, a symbol of international cooperation and technological achievement. Now it would become a lesson in alien superiority. The energy beam lasted exactly 2.3 seconds. The space station simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, no trace that it had ever existed. One moment, a kilometer-long structure of metal and composite materials. The next moment, empty space where starlight shone unobstructed. Every human who witnessed the demonstration understood they were seeing technology centuries ahead of their own. The weapon had operated at power levels that human reactors could not generate. The precision was perfect, destroying only the target without affecting nearby objects, but humans had been watching carefully. Dr. Min-Ho Lee had instruments tracking every aspect of the attack. Satellites recorded energy frequencies. Observatories measured radiation patterns. Ground-based sensors analyzed the weapon discharge. Every piece of data was shared instantly with research centers worldwide. Engineer Young Soo Choi noticed something important in the measurements. The alien weapon showed harmonic resonance patterns. This suggested the technology had specific operational requirements, possibly even vulnerabilities that could be exploited. Captain Yoon Jung-shin was coordinating with military bases across the globe. Instead of panic, she found determination. Every commander wanted to know how many nuclear warheads could be prepared within 72 hours. Every engineer wanted specifications for improvised weapon systems. Dr. Si-Jin Oh discovered that Earth communication networks could be modified for warfare. Radio telescopes could focus energy beams, satellite arrays could coordinate attacks, research laboratories could weaponize experimental technology. The response surprised the Valon, who had expected either immediate surrender or paralyzed terror. Instead, human activity increased dramatically. Manufacturing facilities switched to weapons production. Research centers shared data at unprecedented rates. Military forces began coordinating globally for the first time in history. G1. Yoon was appointed Director of Planetary Defense, a position that had never existed before. Her first act was to coordinate the most ambitious project in human history, turning an entire planet into a fortress. Every nuclear weapon would be retrofitted with new guidance systems. Every satellite would become a kinetic weapon. Every piece of space debris would be weaponized. The 72-hour deadline approached. Humans worked without sleeping. Factories operated continuously. Scientists shared decades of research instantly. Engineers designed weapons using principles they barely understood. The entire species had focused on a single goal, making the aliens pay for every human life war leader. Vex expected the final hours to bring desperate attempts at negotiation. Primitive species always begged for mercy when faced with superior force. Some offered tribute. Others promised servitude. All eventually submitted to Valon authority. Instead, at exactly 72 hours, Earth sent a response through every radio telescope and communication satellite simultaneously. The message was delivered by G1 Yoon in a voice that carried the determination of 8 billion humans. The response was one word that would echo through Valon nightmares. No. The single word echoed through the Valon ship. War leader Vex stared at the communication display in confusion. No primitive species had ever refused surrender after a demonstration of Valon power. The response made no tactical sense, no strategic value, no possibility of victory. Vex checked the intelligence reports again. Humans had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light travel. Their most powerful weapons were crude nuclear devices that could barely destroy cities. Their Space Force consisted of a few scientific satellites and experimental rockets. The refusal was clearly emotional rather than logical. These humans would learn through pain. Vex ordered the bombardment to begin. Target the largest population centers. Show them the cost of defiance. Their surrender would come within hours once they witnessed true destruction. But when the Valon ship powered its main weapons, something impossible happened. Earth fired back. Not with one or two desperate shots, but with everything. The planet had thousands of nuclear missiles launched simultaneously from every continent. Captain Sujin Kim coordinated the response from the Unified Command Center. Every nuclear weapon on Earth had been retrofitted with Tai-Hyun NAM revolutionary guidance systems. Satellites provided targeting data. Space-based sensors tracked the alien ship movement patterns. The missiles came from every direction. North America launched intercontinental ballistic missiles. Russia fired submarine-based warheads. China contributed long-range rockets. Europe added theater nuclear weapons. Every nuclear power had contributed to the swarm. Dr. Hyun Soo Bae had discovered the alien shield vulnerability during those crucial 72 hours. The energy barriers operated on rotating frequencies to prevent overload, but the rotation followed a predictable pattern. Every 60 seconds there was a 2.3-second window when the shields recalibrated. Humanity had timed their attack perfectly. Thousands of warheads arrived during the vulnerability window. The first wave tested the shield patterns. The second wave exploited the weaknesses. The third wave overwhelmed the defensive system's war leader. Vex watched in shock as human weapons actually damaged his ship. The primitive nuclear devices should have been absorbed harmlessly by Valon shields. Instead, explosions rippled across the hull. Hull plating cracked energy conduits. Overloaded engineer Dong-Hyun Kang had weaponized Earth orbital infrastructure. Every satellite became a kinetic projectile. Every piece of space debris was guided toward the alien ship. The attacks came from angles the Valon had not anticipated, using velocities that strained their defensive systems, and the real surprise was the coordination. Dr. Si Jin-Oh had networked every radio telescope on Earth into a single weapon system. The combined energy output created directed beams that interfered with Valon communications. The alien ship found itself isolated from the Empire fleet. Captain Yoon Jung-shin commanded improvised weapons platforms built in those desperate 72 hours. Chemical rockets carried nuclear warheads. Space shuttles had been converted to guided missiles. Even civilian satellites were programmed for ramming attacks. The battle lasted 18 hours longer than any Valon engagement in 3 centuries. The alien ship had superior technology, But humans fought with desperate creativity. Every attack was different. Every tactic was improvised. Every weapon was designed to exploit discovered vulnerabilities. Vex realized too late that these humans were unlike any species the Valon had encountered. They did not fight to win. They fought to hurt their enemies as much as possible before dying. They turned every piece of technology into a weapon. They coordinated attacks across their entire planet. When the smoke cleared, the Valon ship had survived, but barely. Hull breaches leaked atmosphere into space. Multiple weapon systems were offline. The shield generators operated at reduced efficiency. For the first time in Valon history, a primitive species had damaged an Empire warship war leader. Vex sent a desperate transmission to Fleet Command. These humans were not normal prey species. They showed no fear of death. They adapted their tactics in real time. They turned their entire planet into a weapon request, immediate reinforcement with full battle fleet. The transmission included sensor logs showing human weapon capabilities. The data confused Valon commanders who had never seen such desperate ferocity from a technologically inferior species. The humans had fought like cornered predators rather than frightened prey commander. Thex received the report. With growing alarm, a single human world had damaged a Valon warship. The implications were disturbing. If humans could hurt Empire ships with primitive weapons, what would they do with captured alien technology? But retreat was impossible. The Valon Empire had never withdrawn from conquest. The prestige of 3 centuries would collapse if word spread that humans had forced a Valon ship to flee. Reinforcements would arrive within months. Earth would be destroyed as an example to other worlds. What Thex did not understand was that humans had used those 18 hours of battle to learn everything about Valon technology wreckage. From damaged ship systems provided crucial intelligence. Sensor readings revealed shield frequencies and weapon capabilities. Dr. Min-Ho Lee analyzed alien hull fragments and found weaknesses in the molecular structure. Engineer Young Soo Choi reverse-engineered weapon energy patterns. Captain Soo Jin Kim calculated ship maneuvering limitations. Every human casualty had purchased knowledge about their enemies. Earth began preparing for the next attack with grim determination. They had proven alien ships could be hurt. Now they needed to prove alien ships could be killed. The entire planet became a weapons research facility focused on a single goal: making the Valon Empire pay in full for every human life. Commander Krex arrived at Earth with 50 Valon warships, the largest battle fleet ever assembled for a single world conquest. His orders were simple: destroy all human resistance, completely obliterate their industrial capacity, ensure no other species would dare refuse Valon authority. The fleet that approached Earth 6 months after first contact represented the military might of 17 conquered star systems. Each ship carried weapons that could crack continents. Each captain had experience destroying civilizations that refused to submit. Krex studied the intelligence reports with growing irritation. The humans had somehow damaged a Valon warship using primitive nuclear weapons. This was embarrassing, but explainable through lucky tactics and desperate coordination. A full battle fleet would crush them within hours. But Earth had changed dramatically during those 6 months. Captain Yoon Jung-shin now commanded a unified planetary defense force that combined every military resource on the planet. International conflicts had ceased. Every government contributed to a single goal: preparing for the next alien attack. The orbital space around Earth bristled with defensive installations. What appeared to be communication satellites were actually weapon platforms. Seemingly civilian structures concealed military systems. The humans had turned their entire orbital infrastructure into a fortress. Dr. Dong Hyun Kang had developed swarm tactics using thousands of small, fast vessels. Each ship was barely larger than a fighter craft but carried nuclear warheads and guidance systems that could penetrate enemy defenses through overwhelming numbers rather than individual power. Engineer Woo Jin Lee had weaponized technologies, never designed for warfare. Solar panels became directed energy weapons, communication arrays became jamming systems, research laboratories became weapons factories. The distinction between civilian and military infrastructure had disappeared when the Valon fleet entered the solar system. They found humans waiting with tactics no other species had attempted. Earth launched not hundreds but thousands of attack craft. Each vessel was different, showing human creativity and refusal to accept. Standardized defeat, Captain Su Bin-hong commanded defense platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Humanity had spread their weapons across the entire solar system, making it impossible for the Valan to target all threats simultaneously. Humans fought like a species that expected to lose but refused to make it easy. The battle began when Valan ships attempted orbital bombardment of major cities. Instead of helpless targets, they found hardened bunkers and underground facilities. Humans had spent 6 months preparing for exactly this attack. Every major population center had been fortified. Dr. Si-jin O coordinated electromagnetic warfare that confused Valan sensors. Their targeting systems, designed for fighting other advanced civilizations, struggled with human improvisation. Radio noise interference patterns disrupted alien communications. The fighting lasted 3 days and nights. Valan weapons destroyed many human defensive platforms, but every attack cost them resources and revealed information about their capabilities. Humans fought with suicidal determination that unnerved alien crews. Krex watched 12 of his warships suffer critical damage from human attacks. The losses were unprecedented in Valan military history. No primitive species had ever inflicted such casualties on an Empire fleet. The humans seemed to grow more dangerous with each engagement. But the real shock came when humans began using captured Valan technology. Engineer Min-ho Lee had reverse-engineered alien energy weapons. Dr. Hyun Soo Bae had cracked their shield frequencies. Captain Ji Hai-shin commanded human ships built with hybrid technology. The Valan had made a crucial mistake by giving humans 6 months to prepare. Instead of cowering in fear, humanity had used every day to study their enemies, learn their weaknesses, and develop countermeasures. The species that had climbed to the top of Earth food chain through persistence now applied that same determination to interstellar warfare. When the battle ended, Valan forces controlled Earth orbit, but at a cost no Empire commander had ever paid. 12 warships destroyed or crippled. Thousands of alien casualties. Worst of all, humans had proven that Valan technology could be captured and copied. Krex sent increasingly desperate reports to high command. These humans were not behaving like conquered species. They fought harder after defeats. They learned from every engagement. They turned captured technology against its creators. The pattern was completely unlike anything in Valan experience. The response from high command was predictable. Send more ships. Destroy the human homeworld completely. Make an example that would terrify other species. The Valan Empire could not appear weak. The prestige of 3 centuries of conquest was at stake, but humans were no longer confined to their homeworld. During the battle, several human ships had escaped Earth orbit, carrying crews trained in Valan technology. Captain Dae-ho Park commanded a strike force that had captured an alien vessel intact. The war was spreading beyond a single planet. Humanity had done something no other species had managed. They had taken the fight to the Valan Empire, carrying captured technology and burning determination to star systems throughout alien space. What had started as a simple conquest had become something the Valan had never experienced, a species that got stronger through defeat, an enemy that learned from every casualty, a war that threatened the foundation of everything the Empire believed about their own superiority. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not like other species, and the Valan Empire was about to pay the full price for making that discovery. 2 years had passed since the first Valan ship appeared at Earth. The war had spread across dozens of star systems, transforming from a simple conquest into a galactic revolution that threatened the foundation of the Valan Empire. Captain Wu Jin Lee commanded humanity's first true starship built using captured alien technology, but improved with human engineering. The vessel could repair battle damage, automatically reconfigure weapons during combat, and most importantly, learn from every engagement to become deadlier. The ship represented everything that made humans dangerous to the Valan. It combined alien science with human adaptability, creating something neither species could have built alone. The result was a weapon that evolved during battle, becoming more effective with each encounter. Dr. Jae Sung Park had accomplished what Valan security experts claimed was impossible. He had cracked their faster-than-light communication system. This breakthrough allowed human forces to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems, simultaneously turning isolated raids into organized campaigns. The war had revealed something terrifying to the Valon Empire. Every world they had conquered in the past 3 centuries contained populations ready to rebel against their oppressors. Human ships appeared at these systems, offering advanced weapons and tactical support. Captain Subin Hong led liberation forces that could operate in environments lethal to Valon warriors. Humans had evolved on a death world with extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, and radiation levels that would kill most galactic species. This diversity became a tactical advantage. The psychological impact on Valon forces was devastating. They had never faced an HFY enemy that became stronger through defeat, that turned every casualty into a lesson for future battles, that made allies from former enemies. The fundamental assumptions of Empire superiority were crumbling. Commander Ji Hai Shin coordinated diplomatic efforts with liberated species. Humanity had discovered something the Valon never understood: leadership through inspiration rather than fear. Other species fought harder for human commanders because they wanted to win, not because they were forced to fight. The Valon military doctrine had been designed for quick, decisive victories against technologically inferior opponents. They had never developed strategies for prolonged warfare against enemies that could match their technology and exceed their determination. Human tactics evolved constantly. Engineering teams modified captured Valon weapons to exceed original specifications. Scientists developed new technologies by combining principles from multiple species. Military commanders created strategies that exploited alien psychological weaknesses. Dr. Min-Ho Lee had established research facilities on liberated worlds where human scientists worked with alien specialists. The collaboration produced hybrid technologies superior to anything either species had developed alone. Innovation accelerated by desperation and cooperation. The Empire found itself fighting a war unlike anything in their 3-century history. Instead of conquering worlds, they were losing them. Human forces struck. Without warning, liberated populations disappeared before reinforcements arrived. The stable borders of Valon space began collapsing. Captain Yun Jung Shin commanded joint task forces combining human ships with vessels from dozen liberated species. The mixed fleets used tactics impossible for homogeneous Valon forces. Each species contributed unique capabilities, creating unpredictable combat formations. Young Suchoi had weaponized human cultural advantages. The same creativity that produced art, music, and literature now generated military innovations that confused alien commanders. Humans fought with imagination, as well as determination. The Valon High Command realized, too late, that they were not fighting a single species. They were fighting an idea that any oppressed population could resist successfully. That technological superiority did not guarantee victory, that determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. Admiral Bo Ram Kwan led the assault on the Valon Secondary Fleet Base. The attack succeeded because humans had done something unprecedented. They convinced the base garrison that surrender was preferable to destruction. Valon warriors switching sides rather than dying for an empire that treated them as expendable. Every human victory inspired additional rebellions. Every liberated world became a base for further operations. Every captured Valon ship was crewed by former slaves, eager for revenge against their oppressors. The empire was collapsing from within. The war had lasted 2 years, but the Valon Empire was already doomed. They had built their power on fear and technological superiority. Humans had proven both could be overcome through determination and cooperation. The psychological foundation of Valon authority was destroyed. Captain Tai Hyun Nam prepared the final assault on the Valon home system. The attacking fleet would consist of ships from dozens of liberated worlds united under human leadership and armed with hybrid technologies that represented the best of multiple civilizations working together. The galaxy was about to witness the end of the Valon Empire, not through conquest, but through liberation. The species that had ruled through fear would learn the price of teaching other species that freedom was possible. 5 years after first contact, the Valon home system prepared for siege. The mighty empire that had once controlled 17 star systems now held only their original world, surrounded by enemies they had created through 3 centuries of oppression. Admiral Bo-Ram Kwan led the final assault fleet, but the approaching armada looked nothing like traditional human forces. Ships from dozens of different species flew together under unified command. Each vessel represented a world liberated from Valan control. The attacking force included sleek vessels from the aquatic Niran, whose underwater cities had been mining colonies, twisted organic ships from the plant, like Xerion, who had been forced to terraform barren worlds, crystalline constructs, from the silicon-based Quell who had served as computer systems. Each liberated species brought unique technologies and capabilities that the Valan had never bothered to understand. They had seen conquered populations only as resources to be exploited, never as potential allies with valuable knowledge. Dr. C. Jin O coordinated the hybrid technology systems that powered the Liberation Fleet. Human adaptability had combined with alien specialization to create weapons and defenses superior to anything. The original Valan Empire had possessed. The siege began with something unprecedented in galactic warfare. A demand for surrender broadcast in hundreds of languages representing every species the Valan had enslaved. The message was simple. Lay down your weapons and face trial for crimes against sentient life. High Commander Vorth of the Valan Empire stared at sensor readings that made no sense. The approaching fleet should have been impossible. Different species using incompatible technologies, somehow fighting with perfect coordination under the leadership of primitive humans. The first attacks came from directions the Valan had never anticipated. Niran ships materialized from hyperspace inside asteroid fields. Xerion vessels grew new. Weapon systems during battle. Quell constructs calculated firing solutions faster than Valan computers could process. Captain Ji-Hai Shin commanded the diplomatic corps that had transformed warfare into liberation. Every engagement was preceded by offers of surrender, every victory followed by integration of willing Valan personnel into the liberation forces. The Empire fought with desperation, but their military doctrine had never prepared for this type of conflict. Valan warriors were trained to dominate inferior species, not to fight coordinated resistance from multiple civilizations working together. Human leadership had accomplished something that confused the Valan completely. They had turned enemies into allies, oppressed populations into volunteer armies, former slaves into willing partners. The entire foundation of Empire thinking was revealed as fundamentally flawed. Captain Wu Jin Li led boarding parties that included members from every liberated species. The diversity that Valan doctrine saw as weakness became an unstoppable strength. Each species contributed capabilities that complemented the others. Dr. Hyun-Soo Bae had analyzed Valan psychology and discovered their greatest vulnerability. They could not comprehend cooperation between equals. Their entire civilization was built on hierarchy and domination. When faced with true partnership, they had no effective response. The final battle lasted only 6 hours. The Valan home fleet was outnumbered by 3-1. But more importantly, they were fighting an enemy that had learned from every previous encounter. The liberation forces knew every Valan tactic, every weakness, every limitation. High Commander Vorth sent the final transmission as his flagship systems failed around him. The message was intended for any Valan survivors who might escape to warn the galaxy about what they had discovered. We thought we were apex predators, he broadcast as explosions lit his bridge. We believed that might made right that superior technology guaranteed victory. We were wrong. These humans are not just another species to be conquered. They are evolution itself, adaptation given form. The message continued as hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. We made contact with them expecting easy conquest. Instead, we taught them that oppression could be resisted, that technology could be captured, that determination could overcome impossible odds. They turned our greatest strength against us. Our knowledge of other species became their network of allies. Our advanced technology became their hybrid weapons. Our territorial expansion became a map of worlds ready for liberation. Commander Ji-Hai Shin received surrender offers from Valan, facilities throughout their home system. The offers came not from fear but from exhaustion. Warriors who had spent their entire lives believing in Empire superiority now understood that their civilization had been built on lies. The galaxy watched, as the Valan Empire officially surrendered to a coalition led by the species they had dismissed as primitive humans. The surrender was broadcast across all inhabited systems, serving as proof that no oppressor was too powerful to defeat within. Days of the Empire fall. Captain Su Bin Hong received diplomatic requests from hundreds of previously unknown species. Civilizations that had hidden from Valan expansion now emerged, seeking alliance with the force that had proven liberation was possible. Dr. Min Ho Lee established the Galactic Cooperation Council with headquarters on Earth. The organization would prevent any single species from dominating others and provide mutual defense against future threats. The council motto was simple: never again. The former Valan worlds became independent systems, but many chose to maintain alliance with Earth. Humans had proven they could lead without dominating, inspire without forcing, cooperate without exploiting. The contrast with Valan methods was absolute. Admiral Bo-Ram Quan oversaw the transition of Valan military technology to council control. The weapons that had once enforced oppression would now protect freedom. The ships that had carried conquest would now carry cooperation between species. Captain Tae Hyun Nam commanded the first council exploration fleets that ventured beyond known space, carrying a message of cooperation rather than conquest. Every new species they encountered learned that the galaxy had changed. That diversity was strength. The war had cost millions of lives, but humanity had proven something valuable to every sentient species. No oppressor was invincible, no empire permanent, no species destined for slavery. Determination and cooperation could overcome any advantage. Earth became the center of galactic civilization, not through conquest but through inspiration. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had taught the galaxy that true strength came from working together rather than dominating. Others, the Valan Empire legacy, served as a permanent reminder of the price of oppression. Their former colonies became free worlds. Their technology became shared resources. Their example became a warning against tyranny. Humans had learned they were not alone in the galaxy and would never have to fight alone again. The universe was vast enough for every species to find their place as equals, rather than as conquerors or conquered. The galaxy had been changed forever by contact with humanity, not because humans were superior, but because they had proven that cooperation was stronger than domination, that freedom was worth any sacrifice, that no price was too high to pay for liberty.